My stepmom raised me since I was 5, but after years of feeling left out, I told her she's not my mom. Now she wants to fix things, but I'm not sure if I can ever forgive her. It's been 2 months since I made the decision to stop calling her mom. I've always known her as Mom. She's been there since I was 5, after my biological mother walked out and never looked back. When I was younger, I didn't even notice the difference between her and a real mother. She took care of me, fed me, and even helped me with my school projects when I was struggling. But things started changing when I got older, and I began to notice how much more affectionate she was with my younger brother, Ethan. Ethan was always a little angel. He was a priority in everything, but I never said anything. That all changed a few months ago when she planned this family trip. I found out last minute that I wasn't invited. My stepmom, Lena, made it clear that the trip was for her, my dad, and Ethan only. She didn't even try to hide it. "It's a family trip," she said, like the words didn't sting. I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet. It wasn't the first time I'd felt pushed aside, but this time felt different. This time, I wasn't just going to sit there and take it. So, when I got back from the trip, I did something I hadn't planned to do. I walked up to Lena and told her, "You're not my mom." I said it plainly, no hesitation. The look in her eyes shattered me, but I kept going. She didn't even try to fight it. My dad was furious. He told me I needed to apologize and stop disrespecting your mother. But to me, she wasn't my mother, not anymore. I wasn't going to let her hurt me again, and I wasn't going to pretend everything was fine. I started calling her by her first name, Lena. It felt freeing, honestly, but I knew it hurt her. I didn't care. If she didn't see me as a son, why should I see her as a mother? Things got tense at home. My dad and I barely spoke. My brother, Ethan, didn't understand. He was caught in the middle, and I knew he wanted to fix everything. But I wasn't going to let him. This was my fight. My stepmom had crossed a line, and now it was time to pay the price. I wasn't going to apologize for standing up for myself. A few days later, my dad told me Lena wanted to talk to me. I didn't want to, but I knew we needed to address it. So I went to the living room where she was sitting, looking like she hadn't slept in days. I crossed my arms, still holding on to that anger. But when she started talking, something in me started to shift. Lena started speaking in that soft, almost hesitant tone. "I know I hurt you," she said, her voice breaking just a little. "And I understand why you're upset. I'm sorry. I never meant to make you feel like you didn't matter." She paused, searching for the right words, her eyes watery. "I've always loved you know that, right?" I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to lash out, remind her of all the times she made me feel invisible, all the moments when I was just there, but never enough. But the other part of me, the part that wanted to believe in this woman, who had been my only mother figure, wanted to hear her out. "Lena, it's not just about the trip," I said, my voice rough. "It's how you've treated me all these years. I've watched you shower Ethan with affection, and then there's me. It's like I'm not even a part of your family." Her face twisted with guilt, and she wiped her eyes quickly. "I never meant to make you feel that way. I guess I got caught up in the idea of having a real family with Ethan, and I didn't realize what I was doing to you." The words hung in the air. I felt the tension in my chest, the weight of everything I'd been holding in. Part of me wanted to accept her apology, but another part of me felt too betrayed, too hurt to just let go of all the years of neglect. "I just don't know if I can forgive you," I whispered. "You've hurt me too much, and now you want to act like nothing happened." Lena looked at me with a raw vulnerability I hadn't seen before. "I understand," she said quietly. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just want you to know that I'm trying. I've been trying to fix things for a while now, even if it didn't seem like it." I could feel the sincerity in her words, and it hit me harder than I expected. But I wasn't ready to just jump back into the same old routine. "I don't know if I can go back to calling you Mom," I said, my throat tight. Lena's face crumbled for a moment, but she nodded slowly. "I'll take whatever you're willing to give me. I just want a chance, a real chance to be your mother again." The room was thick with tension. My heart was torn in two. I wanted to believe her, wanted to think that she could change, but the scars were still there, and they were deep. We sat in silence for a while, and finally, I spoke again. "I'll think about it," I said, "but I need time, Lena. Time to figure out what we are now." She nodded, her face filled with a mix of hope and sadness. "I'll wait," she whispered. "I'll wait as long as it takes." I left the room without saying anything else. I didn't know if I could go back, But a small part of me, just a tiny part, wondered if there was a way forward. I wasn't sure, but I wasn't going to make any decisions yet. The next few days felt like walking on eggshells. My dad was walking around like a ghost, not really talking to anyone, and Lena kept her distance too. She tried to reach out a couple of times, asking if I wanted to watch a movie together or play some video games, but I kept rejecting her. Every time I thought about saying yes, that old, bitter feeling crept up in me, the feeling of being pushed aside, like I didn't matter as much as Ethan. Ethan, of course, was oblivious to all of this. He was a 12-year-old kid, and he just wanted to hang out with both of us. But he was also caught between his loyalty to Lena and the fact that I was his brother. I could see the confusion in his eyes, especially when he'd ask me, "Why are you being so quiet? Why aren't you talking to Mom?" It stung. I wasn't angry at him. I was angry at everything else. I didn't want to hurt him, but I couldn't just pretend that nothing had happened. Lena kept trying. One evening, she left me a note on my door, asking if we could go out for ice cream like we used to when I was younger. I read the note over and over again, the words blurry in my vision. She had always used ice cream as a way to make up for her mistakes when I was a kid, but this time it felt different. I knew she wasn't just asking me to get some ice cream. She was asking for forgiveness. But I wasn't ready. I didn't even know if I wanted to forgive her. Later that night, when I was sitting in the living room playing a video game, she came in and sat next to me. She didn't say anything at first. I could feel her eyes on me, but I didn't look up. I didn't want to acknowledge her presence. I wanted her to understand how much she had hurt me. Finally, after long silence, she spoke. "I miss you. I miss how things were before all this, the way we used to laugh and joke around." She paused. "I miss being your mom." The words pierced me, but I couldn't bring myself to look at her. Instead, I just stared at the TV screen, hoping it would distract me from the emotions swirling inside. "You don't get it, do you?" I said quietly. "You can't just decide one day to be my mom again after everything that's happened. It doesn't work like that." Her face dropped, and she looked away. "I know," she said softly. "I know I can't fix everything overnight, but I'm trying, I swear. I just want you back. I want to be part of your life again. Please let me in." I didn't say anything. What was I supposed to say? I wasn't sure if I could let her back in, and part of me wasn't sure I wanted to. But it really hurt to see her like this. "Give me some time," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not ready yet, but I'll think about it." She nodded, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and hope. She got up and walked out of the room, without saying anything else, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I spent the next couple of days thinking, and honestly, I couldn't stop replaying everything in my head. I kept thinking about Lena's words, how she said she missed me, how she wanted to fix things. Part of me wanted to believe her, but another part just couldn't. It felt too easy, like she thought a couple of apologies and some effort would somehow undo years of hurt. And I wasn't sure that was enough. But I also couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, she was telling the truth this time. She had never been perfect, but she had raised me, fed me, and kept me safe for most of my life. I couldn't just throw that away, could I? Ethan, however, seemed to be oblivious to everything going on. He had no idea how serious this all was. To him, Lena was still his mom, and he couldn't understand why I was pushing her away. A few days ago, when I was walking into the kitchen, I overheard him talking to Lena about me. "Why is Matt still acting like that?" Ethan asked, his voice so innocent. "What's wrong with him? I thought you two were close." Lena's response was quiet, but I heard the sadness in it. "I don't know, baby. I wish I could make him see how much I love him. I really do." The guilt hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't want to hurt her like this, especially not in front of Ethan. But at the same time, I couldn't just ignore how I felt. I wasn't ready to forgive her, and I wasn't sure I ever would be. That night, I finally broke the silence. I found Lena sitting alone on the couch, looking lost in thought. I had been avoiding her for days, and I could see it was taking its toll. "Lena," I started, my voice unsure. "I'm not saying I'm ready to call you Mom again, but I don't want this to go on forever. I don't want to keep ignoring you." Her eyes brightened slightly, and she sat up straighter, almost like she was afraid to hope. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm willing to try," I said, still not able to fully look her in the eye. "I'm not promising anything. I don't even know what this is going to look like, but I'm not going to shut you out anymore." She exhaled, her face relaxing as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "I can live with that," she whispered. "I'll wait for you. I just want a chance to show you I'm sorry and that I can do better. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was a first step. I wasn't sure if I was ready to let go of all the resentment, but I wasn't ready to walk away completely either. Over the next few weeks, things were different. Not drastically better, but different. Lena tried. I had to give her that. She started asking me what I wanted for dinner, instead of just making what she thought I liked. She even started texting me random memes or videos, trying to engage in some of the things I liked. It was strange. I didn't know how to react, so I just kept playing along, offering a smile here and there, but not much else. Ethan, as usual, seemed unaffected by the tension. He would go to Lena, laughing and joking like everything was fine, and I would just watch from the sidelines. It hurt sometimes. It hurt, because I was starting to feel like I was on the outside of my own family. Ethan was so innocent in all of this. He didn't see the way things had fallen apart, and he didn't know how deep the wounds ran. One afternoon, Lena came to me while I was sitting on the couch, staring at my phone. "Do you want to go out for lunch?" she asked, her voice soft but full of hope. "Just the two of us?" I hesitated. I could feel the hesitation building inside me, the wall I had put up slowly creeping back. But I remembered the promise I made to myself, to at least try. "Sure," I said, pushing the doubts aside. "Why not?" We went to a small diner downtown, a place I used to love before all the tension started. As we sat down at a booth, I could feel the awkwardness between us, like we were both trying to fill a silence that had been there for too long. Lena tried to break the ice by asking about my classes, my friends, even my hobbies. It was like she was trying to catch up on the years she'd missed. And in a way, I appreciated it. We spent the next hour talking about little things. Nothing deep, but it felt like a start. It wasn't perfect, and I still couldn't shake the feeling of everything that had come before. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like she was trying. She wasn't just going through the motions. As we finished our meal, she reached across the table and put her hand on mine, a simple gesture. I froze, my heart racing in my chest. It was strange, feeling her touch again, like a reminder of everything I had once known. But I pulled my hand away before I could think about it too much. "Matt, I just want you to know that I'm not giving up," she said, her voice steady but with an undercurrent of vulnerability. "I'll keep trying for as long as it takes." I looked at her, searching her eyes for something, anything, that would give me the courage to believe her. But all I saw was a woman who was genuinely trying to make amends. And for the first time in a while, I felt a small spark of hope. The days following our lunch felt strange. It wasn't that things had drastically changed, but they weren't as tense as they had been. I wasn't sure if I was growing numb to the situation, or if Lena's efforts were genuinely starting to make a difference. Either way, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that I was still stuck in some limbo between holding on to my anger and wanting to believe in her sincerity. One evening, as I sat on the porch staring out the neighborhood, Ethan came up to me, looking uncharacteristically serious. He had that concerned look on his face, the one I usually wore when something was bothering me. "Hey, man, I need to talk to you about something," he said, sitting down next to me without waiting for an invitation. I glanced at him but didn't respond. He took a deep breath, clearly hesitating. "It's about Mom and you. I don't get why you're acting like this. Why are you so mad at her?" I flinched at the mention of her. Even now, after everything, I still wasn't used to hearing her referred to as Mom by him. She was his real mom, biologically speaking. She'd always been there for him. But for me, she wasn't just a mom. She was Lena, a woman who had betrayed me in ways I wasn't sure I could ever forgive. "I don't know if I can explain it to you, Ethan," I said quietly, "but she's hurt me a lot, and I don't know if I can just forget that." Ethan's face scrunched up in confusion. "But she's trying, right? She's been doing stuff with you. I see it. I hear her talking about how much she misses you. She's not the same person she was." I stayed silent. He was right in one way. She was trying. But how could I let her in again after everything she'd done? My heart wanted to say yes, but my mind kept pushing it away. Ethan reached over and put his hand on mine, the gesture so innocent. "I know you're mad, Matt, but she's our mom. I don't want to see you two fighting. It's making everything weird." His words hit me harder than I expected. Ethan was just a kid. He didn't understand the complexities of what had happened between Lena and me. He only saw the surface, the smiles, the hugs, the meals. He didn't see the hurt I'd carried with me for years. "I know," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not trying to make things weird. I just don't know if I can go back to how it was." Ethan nodded slowly, clearly trying to understand, but I could see the disappointment in his eyes. It wasn't that he blamed me. It was just that he couldn't understand why I was making it so difficult. To him, it was simple. She was his mom, and that was that. I'm not giving up, I said quietly. But I need time. I'm still figuring things out. Ethan didn't say anything else. He simply got up and walked back inside, leaving me alone on the porch with my thoughts. And I realized, maybe for the first time, that this wasn't just about Lena trying to fix things. It was about me, too. About whether or not I could let go of the anger and the years of feeling abandoned in favor of something that might never fully be the same again. I wasn't sure what the answer was, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy. It's funny how life throws things at you when you least expect it. After Ethan came to me that evening, things settled into this strange rhythm. I kept my distance from Lena, but not as much as before. I wasn't entirely shutting her out, but I wasn't opening up either. I went through the motions, playing games, having meals, even talking to her about things that didn't matter much, but it was always surface level. Then one Saturday, a week after our lunch, my dad dropped a bombshell on me. "Matt, your mom wants us all to go to the lake this weekend," he said casually, like it was no big deal. "She's been planning it for a while." The words hit me like a punch in the stomach. Mom. Lena. I froze, unsure what to do with myself. Mom. I echoed, barely able to speak the word. "Yeah," my dad said, raising an eyebrow. "You've been avoiding her, but she's still your mother, Matt. We're all going to spend some time together." I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream that I didn't want to go, that I didn't want to pretend everything was fine. But I didn't. I just nodded, too tired to fight. Part of me wanted to stay home, hide from the tension, but another part of me wanted to see if this could actually be a turning point. And so, a couple of days later, we all piled into the car for the weekend trip to the lake. The drive was oddly quiet. Ethan kept chatting about his school friends, and my dad was his usual quiet self. But I was silent. I was preparing myself for whatever was going to happen once we reached the lake, unsure of what I was walking into. When we finally arrived, Lena was the first to greet us. She gave Ethan a tight hug, and then turned to me, hesitating before pulling me in. I stiffened but didn't pull away. Her touch felt unfamiliar, and hurt more than I expected. It was a reminder of all the years I felt like I wasn't truly a part of her life. "Thanks for coming, Matt," she said softly, her voice tentative. "I know things have been difficult, but I'm hoping this weekend can be a fresh start." I didn't respond. Instead, I just walked toward the cabin with Ethan and my dad, my mind racing. The weekend was an emotional roller coaster. We spent the first day at the lake, everyone smiling and laughing like nothing had ever happened. But I could see the cracks. I could see the effort it took for Lena to pretend everything was fine. And I could see my dad trying desperately to hold everything together, acting like this was just another family trip. By the second day, I couldn't handle it anymore. I walked down to the dock alone, needing some space to think. The sound of the water was calming, but my mind was anything but. I heard footsteps behind me, and I knew who it was before I even turned around. Lena stood a few feet away, her hands wringing nervously. "I'm not asking for everything to be fixed today," she said softly, "but I want to ask you to try. Not for me. For us. For you. I don't want to lose you, Matt. I want to be your mom again." Her words stung, but they were different this time. There was no excuse, no defense, just raw, unfiltered honesty. I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like she was really seeing me. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I was ready to forgive her, but I knew one thing. This was the first real attempt at understanding. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. I'm not sure if I can just go back to how it was. I finally said, "But I'll try. I'll try to figure out what this is, but it's going to take time." Lena nodded slowly, the tension easing from her face for the first time in weeks. "I can wait," she said quietly. And in that moment, I realized something. Maybe it wasn't about going back to what we had. Maybe it was about moving forward, about giving each other the chance to rebuild from the ground up. I wasn't sure what that would look like, or if it would even work, but I was finally willing to try. The days after the trip were oddly quiet. I didn't know what to make of it all. Lena was trying, I could tell. She made small gestures, like bringing me my favorite snack or asking if I want to go see a movie. But every time she did, a wall would go up inside me. I'd tell myself, this is it. She's trying. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a step. But my heart still felt heavy with doubt. Ethan noticed a shift, of course. He was always so aware of what was happening around him. One evening, As I was sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone, he came and sat down next to me. I felt him staring at me, waiting for me to look up, but I didn't. Finally, he sighed. Matt, why are you still pushing her away? I glanced at him, surprised by how blunt he was being. I'm not pushing her away, I said, but I knew it sounded weak. I'm not ready to forgive her. You can't keep doing this, he said, his voice barely a whisper. She's been trying. You can see it. So why you keep shutting her out? I opened my mouth to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Ethan was right, in a way. Lena had been trying, but I couldn't make myself believe that it was enough. I couldn't erase all the years I felt like an outsider in my own family. I couldn't forget how often she put Ethan first. I couldn't just forget the hurt. I don't know if I can forgive her, Ethan, I said, finally admitting the truth to him. It's not that simple. Ethan looked at me, his expression serious. Then stop pretending it is. You're making everyone miserable. Her, you, and even Dad. I just want my family back, Matt. The words stung. They were simple, but they cut deeper than I expected. I hadn't realized how much my bitterness was affecting the people around me, but I also knew that I wasn't ready to just move on and pretend everything was fine. I wasn't sure if I would ever be ready for that, but something inside me shifted that night. I wasn't sure what it was. Maybe it was Ethan's words, or maybe it was just the sheer weight of the situation catching up to me. I had been avoiding Lena for so long, building up this wall that I didn't know how to tear down. I didn't want to keep hurting her, but I didn't know how to let go of the hurt she caused me. The next day, Lena approached me again. She had this hopeful look on her face that made me feel guilty just looking at her. Matt, can we talk? She asked. I hesitated. It had been a few weeks since that awkward talk at the lake, and while I hadn't made any major breakthroughs, I had at least started to let my guard down a little. Sure, I said, motioning for her to sit next to me on the couch. She sat down, nervously twirling her fingers around the hem of her shirt. I know things haven't been perfect. I know I can't just fix everything overnight, but I want to keep trying. I just need to know. Do you even want to try to? I paused, the weight of her question hanging between us. Did I want to try? I wasn't sure. I didn't know how much of me was still holding on to the anger, or if there was even a chance to heal things. But deep down, I knew one thing. I didn't want to keep living like this. I didn't want to keep pushing her away, even if it felt like the safer option. I don't know, I said quietly. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for what happened. But I don't want to keep fighting you, either. She looked at me, her eyes filled with relief. I can live with that. We don't have to have all the answers right now, Matt. I just want you to know that I'm here. I'll keep trying. And if you ever want to talk, I'm here. And in that moment, I realized something I hadn't fully grasped before. This wasn't about forgiving her. It wasn't even about pretending that everything was perfect. It was about taking things one step at a time. Maybe we couldn't go back to the way things were, but we didn't have to stay stuck in the past either. It was a small breakthrough, but it was a breakthrough nonetheless. A few weeks passed after Lena and I had that conversation. The silence between us wasn't as thick as before, but it still lingered. It was like we were both cautiously stepping around this fragile truce, unsure if we were walking towards something real or if we were just avoiding more confrontation. Still, there were moments, small, fleeting moments, that made me wonder if we could rebuild something. Lena started to do things that felt different. One morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon and eggs. It was a simple gesture, but it took me by surprise. She had never been one to cook breakfast for anyone. She always said she hated mornings. But there she was, standing at the stove, humming quietly to herself as she flipped pancakes. I stood there in the doorway, watching her. She didn't notice me at first, but when she did, she smiled. I figured we could all use a good breakfast this morning, she said, trying to sound casual. I nodded, unsure what to say. It wasn't much, but it was a start. I didn't know if this was the beginning of something new, but it felt like a step in the right direction. I sat down at the table, and for the first time in a long time, we ate together without that heavy tension hanging over us. That afternoon, Lena asked me if I want to go to the park with her and Ethan. It was something we had done when I was younger, but I hadn't been to the park with them in years. At first, I hesitated. I wasn't sure if I was ready to dive back into that kind of family outing. But then I thought about what Ethan said to me a while ago, that I was making everything harder for everyone. I agreed, but I couldn't shake the unease. Was I doing this because I wanted to, or because I felt like I should? I wasn't sure, but I went anyway. When we got to the park, Ethan immediately ran off to the playground. Lena and I stood by the swings, watching him. For a while, neither of us said anything. I could hear the wind rustling through the trees, the distant sound of children playing, and Lena's soft breathing beside me. Finally, she broke the silence. "I know this isn't easy for you," she said quietly. "I know you're still angry, and I know I've hurt you. But I just want you to know, I don't expect things to go back to the way they were. I just want to be here for you." I glanced at her, surprised by how calm she sounded. She wasn't begging. She wasn't pleading. She was just being honest. It wasn't what I expected, and it wasn't what I wanted, but it was exactly what I needed. "I'm not sure what to do with all of this," I admitted. "I don't know if I can just forget everything that's happened." "I don't expect you to," Lena said, her voice gentle. "I don't want you to forgive me overnight. I just want you to know that I'm here. I'll be here no matter how long it takes." I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in a long while. She wasn't the perfect mother I had hoped for, and maybe she never would be. But she was trying, and that was more than I could say for myself. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you," I said quietly. "But I'll try. I'll try to be open to this. To you. To whatever this is." Lena smiled, and for the first time in what felt like forever, it was a real smile. It wasn't a mask or an attempt to make things seem fine. It was genuine. It was a step toward something real. "I'll take that," she said softly, her eyes filled with relief. "One step at a time." And for the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't alone in this. I didn't know what would happen in the future, but in that moment, I finally felt like we were both willing to take that first step together. Time passed in a way I hadn't expected. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, things started to shift. Lena and I didn't magically become a perfect family, but there was something different now, a sense of effort, a sense of understanding. There were still hard moments, times when the old wounds would surface, but they were fewer and farther between. I wasn't ready to call her mom again, and I wasn't sure if I ever would be, but I started to accept that maybe, just maybe, there was room for something else. I still struggled with the anger I'd been carrying. It wasn't something that disappeared overnight. There were days when I feel frustrated by how easily Ethan seemed to forgive, how Lena would smile at him with that same warmth I hadn't seen in years. But there were also days when I saw Lena's attempt at showing me she cared, her offering to drive me to practice, her asking about my day, even something as small as the way she made my favorite snack when I'd had a bad day. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One night, after a long week of tests and assignments, Lena came to me while I was studying in my room. I had my headphones in, blocking out everything, but I felt her presence in the doorway. "Hey," she said quietly, not wanting to interrupt. "I was thinking about you. I've been trying to figure out how to make things right. I don't know if I ever will, but I just want you to know that I'm sorry." I pulled my headphones off, looking at her. She didn't seem like she was asking for anything. Not this time. It was just a simple statement, but it hit me harder than I expected. "I know," I said quietly. "I know you're sorry." We stood there for a moment, both of us unsure of what came next. I wanted to say something else, something that would tie everything up neatly and make it okay. But it wasn't that simple. The damage wasn't something that could be fixed in one conversation. But maybe, just maybe, it could be healed over time. "I'm not saying everything is perfect," I said, my voice steady. "But I'm trying. I'm trying to understand. I just need time." Lena nodded, her eyes softening. "I can live with that. I'll wait for you, Matt." And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel angry or resentful. I didn't feel like I was being forced into something I wasn't ready for. Instead, I just felt relieved. I was finally being honest with myself. And with her, the next morning, as I was leaving for school, Lena came to the door. She smiled at me, and for a moment, everything felt okay. "Have a good day," she said, her voice light but genuine. "I'll see you when you get home." I nodded, the familiar awkwardness still there, but there was something more, something new. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I wasn't alone in this anymore. We were both trying, and that was all that mattered. And as I walked out the door, I felt like I was stepping into a new chapter. Not a perfect one, not one that could erase all the pain, but a chapter where the healing could finally begin. It wasn't a clean slate, but it was a start. I'm also open to suggestions. Thanks for watching. So, am I the asshole for what I said to my stepmom?